The Mars Polar Lander and Mars Climate Orbiter missions failed. We had to get back in the saddle. We had to get something landed on the surface of Mars.
I thought it was, honestly, it's like a crazy idea given the amount of time that we have. The probability of failure was unacceptable.
Engineers don't like designing when there are too many unknowns.
They fooled me into taking this job, saying that, oh, it won't be that hard. It's a reflight of Mars Pathfinder, you have all the pieces there.
We knew it would be a challenge, but I don't think we adequately assessed how difficult it would be.
I think in the back of your mind, you're always prepared for anything to happen, but this wasn't one of the places that we thought something would go wrong.
Come on, man.
You don't put a system like this on a major spacecraft like this at the last moment.
The trouble is, it's great on paper, but until you put it out there and test it, you really don't know what you have.
You know, I've told my people that in terms of my top 10 list of worries, the first 3 are schedule, schedule, and schedule, and there's nothing in 4th place.
I came to the realization that the heritage wasn't in the blueprints. The heritage was in the people.
Our next pass through this, if it doesn't come together, it's an all-go-home thing. It's an over.
6 greenborn. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
At the end of 1999, the Mars Polar Lander and Mars Climate Orbiter missions failed.
I don't know if you have net punched up, but the numbers reported that they think that the signal may have been due to RFI or something in the front end. They're not seeing that in any of the other spectrums, but they're continuing to look.
JPL was responsible for these missions, and that changed everything. There was a loss of confidence. What had to be done was we had to get back in the saddle. We had to get something landed on the surface of Mars. The problem was we didn't have a lot of time. We have to go back to something we know. And what we knew is we knew the Pathfinder lander. And because of that confidence, we can do it in a short time. We got to take the Pathfinder lander and stick a rover in it.
Here we go, 6 pulses for equalization at -18 dB. Pulse number 1, 3, 2, 1, mark.
We knew at the time we had a 3-year project to go to launch, and that's just very, very tight for a mission of this kind of complexity. And we've been fighting that challenge since the beginning. You worry about, am I got the right plan? Do I really have it figured out? Are we on track? Can we stay on track?
I'll briefly go over launch crews and EDL and just give you an idea of how the downlink process works during those phases. I'll spend a lot more time on surface, specifically the tactical downlink process. I'll also talk a little bit about a couple key additional requirements for Red Rover Goes to Mars.
You start getting into this cycle of things changing just a little bit here and just a little bit there, and all of a sudden the mass got heavier, and so other things had to change. Your design heritage, the blueprint, I use a phrase that I will never use again because no one will believe me, is build to print. I said, we will take the Mars Pathfinder lander and build to print. We will take the blueprints and we will send it to the machine shop, build these same things again, and that will be the shell that we land in. And then we just have to design this rover that fits inside. That build to print concept is the one thing that was completely wrong.
The message here is if you see something that you don't like in the MER mission system design, I'm one of the people you can blame.
I came to the realization that the heritage wasn't in the blueprints. The heritage was in the people. And the people who had designed this thing before, they'd gone through this design work, they've experienced all the difficulties, they know how to solve it.
And then we have a final TCM at 48 hours out.
weigh 40 pounds, but they feel like 100. We are building airbag systems to cushion a rover that's going to Mars. Well, we have a deadline to meet for testing, so we have to work a lot of hours and work hard and get it done on time and make it work good, too. A lot of it is sewing through these thick layers. It's very difficult. The stuff we coat it with makes it hard to go through. We've had to get special needles, special machines, and it takes a lot of strength to press it out with your fingers and sew it. I've done both. I've worked suit parts, I've worked gloves, and I've worked these. It's like peas and carrots, you know? Gloves are more delicate, more complicated mentally, smaller. This is physically challenging because it is heavy. We have a lot of questions because in the whole time you're building it, you're wondering, is this going to be right? Is it going to be okay? Is it going to work? You can't imagine the joy. We were jumping up and down when Pathfinder landed and was successful, and that's what we want to bring into this. How would you feel if you knew that something you have actually worked on and touched every day was on Mars? Our names are on Mars because we got to sign the lander panel of Pathfinder. And believe me, we'll have our initials in some of these scenes too.
Hit a lot. I mean, seriously, no. These things lose a little of their edge.
I mean, look, it's got the same texture down underneath where it's never been tested.
This is the rock that was causing all the problems in the last test.
So we were right up to the hairy edge. We're supposed to just be checking the box. We were waiting to see if we had a working airbag system. It was pretty scary.
It's amazing. You never would have guessed that this rock would cause so much trouble.
No, it's not.
This is
sharp.
They fooled me into taking this job, saying that, oh, it won't be that hard. It's a reflight of Mars Pathfinder. You have all the pieces there. Put it together again, it'll work. And every single last darn piece on that entry descent landing system had to be redesigned, sometimes almost from scratch.
So we're using the replica drop for this first drop. MER as being this heritage, this build to print. You never get to do that.
It's going to go horizontally across the screen. It's going to come towards the bottom. I mean, from the perspective angle.
I own the overall system responsibility, but effectively, I was more of a busybody, getting in Adam Stelzner's way rather than driving the system. I wanted to see firsthand and understand the challenges. And sometimes you can't really understand it unless you're there on site and seeing all the debates that bring out those subtle nuances of the design that you do not hear any other way. We thought we understood how the airbag system was going to behave. We knew it was marginal, and nobody was expecting it to be robust. But the initial design failed and got damaged in ways we were not expecting.
45 seconds. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. Release.
You can see there's a little blue right there.
Yeah.
You can see
Today, we tested at 16 meters per second, and it worked. I would say that, you know, on one hand, we have good reason to be excited, but on the other hand, it was expected to work at 16 meters per second. We didn't expect this one to fail.
Wow.
Just like in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Yes. I remember that scene.
Resolve. Resolve.
Okay.
A little bit slower.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Look at it wrinkling up. Ooh, catching. That is awesome. You can even see a piece of it. Looks like we have a clear.
The lighting's pretty hot right there. But that's all right.
But nothing
But you know, if
significant.
you back up a little bit, you can actually see an abrasion layer lifted off. It's just sitting there. That piece of abrasion layer is just sitting there.
What we've got here is what we're calling classic airbag damage, where the outermost layers are there as sacrificial elements to protect the bladder layer. It's a lot like a bulletproof vest. It gets torn up and you tear the outside part, the outer layers of the vest, and you protect the user on the inside. In this case, it's the airbag and the lander.